Good morning. We are live on YouTube, and we are going to bring in our big Facebook groups, Atlanta Falcons fans on All Falcons and Scott Kennedy Sports. The Falcons one is much bigger. So big Facebook group, and then another Facebook page that I just want to have. As they're getting ready and bring in Facebook. Welcome in, everybody. I am Scott Kennedy. This is the Falcons Podcast, and it is a Sunday after another, shall we say, rather interesting game against the LA Chargers. Another game where you feel going in the Atlanta Falcons are probably outmatched from a talent perspective, and another game where they probably could have come away with a dub. One of the stranger sequences, I think I just got a text from one of my best friends saying, are the Falcons finding new ways to lose? I'm like, well, that's the first time I remember them dropping a fumble return to give the ball back to him. So that was a new one for me. Taquan Graham, as good as he has been this year, I don't want him to be remembered for that play because he's been really, really good, and he won't be remembered for that play. But that was interesting for sure. And I think they got the replay on that right. When I start hearing announcers, this is one of my biggest pet peeves, and I tweet it every week. I tweeted during the Georgia-Tennessee game when there was about a 7-minute delay for a replay. Is like, oh, this is going to be really close. This is really close. Well, then stick with the call. Just stop. If it's really close, that's not what instant replay was put in for. Instant replay was put in to overturn the egregious. You have 30 seconds. If you can't tell in 30 seconds, stick with what's on the field and let's play ball. So I thought they got that one right. But then the Falcons just don't have the manpower on defense in order to stop Justin Herbert when he is going well, and they didn't. Want to bring in my co-host, Nick Kendell. Nick Kendell coming in all the way from Seattle. So good morning, Nick. It is an interesting Monday. The Falcons dropped below 500 with one of the more interesting stats in the world. I think they are now 0-13 when their record is exactly even. So they have an irrational fear of going above. A 500 team that's 0-13. Another one of those statistically impossible things to have happen. So how are you this morning, my friend?
I am doing pretty well. The wife is out of town, so I had a weekend of just football and not taking care of myself, eating junk and staying up too late. And didn't actually.
And mustaches, because you wouldn't be able to pull that off. I know it's November and everything, but
I was leading into that. And also a mustache because she hates it. It's going to have to be gone when she gets back. And I'm like, you know what? The hell with it. Let's see what it looks like. So, yeah, it definitely is a creepy look. But we're rocking the mustache today. So, good to see you. Also, my Hawkeyes are back on track. I don't know how much college football you watched this weekend, but feeling good about that, going into Purdue and stomping Purdue, a team that Iowa's lost 5 of the last 6 against. So, feeling pretty good on a Bronco bye week.
If you're not talking Georgia, Tennessee down here, or at least Alabama, LSU, then you shouldn't be talking on a Falcons broadcast for college football. You're just going to have to leave that one alone.
That's fair. I will say,
I did watch some of the Georgia, Tennessee game. It was a little bit of a late weekend. We got the Friday night draw. So I was out till about midnight with baseball, which is way past my bedtime. But I did get to watch Georgia, Tennessee, and Georgia, the Dogs took care of business. And, both those sites were full of guys that we'll be watching and tracking for NFL. And looking forward to that one. But Dogs took care of business. They should have stayed number one. The whole thing's kind of doesn't matter as much as it used to. But, man, till the champ gets beat, I'm keeping the champ there. So Perry West, champ this morning, coming in first. And good morning, Scott. Doing pretty good today. How are you? I'm doing well, my friend. Thank you so much. And Big Al coming in on YouTube saying good morning. It's a nice morning in South Georgia. He throws in a go Dogs. Joe Cannon coming in on Facebook. Great morning, Scott. And eventually, Nick. Yes, sir. Thank you for hitting that like button as you've come in as well. And Kevin has done the same thing. So make sure you hit that like and share. And if you're on Twitter and you're following me on Twitter, hit that retweet. Let's bring in all the Falcons fans we can. See if we can talk some of this out a little bit after kind of a disappointing loss. Roderick Cook on YouTube coming in. The Falcons tried to give away the Carolina Panthers game and came away with a win. And, they did a good job against a Chargers team that is, even with the injuries, is probably deeper and more talented than they are and could have come away with a win. That's how it goes. With your margins for error like this big, and for those of you listening after the fact, my fingers are, just really small margins for errors because of the talent you have on your team, that's how it's going to go. But
Yeah.
Nick, as I've said, I believe this team, based on how they play as a team and how Arthur Smith and Dean Pease have them going, despite the warts of this roster, should hang around 500 most of the year.
Probably. I could see them, dip a couple games below or a couple games above, ending that streak. But that's where your talent level's at. We've said it a few times on the show. This team probably arrived about a year early, given the lack of spending on the defensive side of the ball, the youth reliance on both sides of the ball. So losing this Chargers game is unfortunate. You do hope that this is one of the games where Falcons would stop, as you say, falconing it up with the turnovers and what. I mean, that Graham one was just unbelievable. I can't imagine that's a very the way you describe it, that'd be a Falcons-esque type of play. But
there was no more Falcons play. I mean, again, we watch you talk about the hope. It's the hope that kills. Atlanta fans, we don't get our hopes up very often. I mean, it's 6-0 in Game 6 of the World Series with 2 outs in the 9th, and we're texting each other like, "How are they going to mess this up?" It's just, that's just how it is. So when you're tied or it's a 1-score game, the other team's got the ball 2 minutes, it's just remember you're like, yeah, this is just inevitable. Here it is. Oh my God, he fumbled. Go, go, go. What did he just do? Are you kidding me? So you get that brief glimpse of, hey, maybe we can win this game, just to have it scrunched out and Lucy to pull the ball away from Charlie Brown. That's what it's like to be an Atlanta Falcons fan. So it can be tough. It's at some times. Terry Ocean Boy Martin coming in. He's all red bird exclamation point. So I know he's feeling it. Just not sure if he's feeling mad, if he's feeling okay about it. Mr. Smith coming in from Costa Rica. Appreciate you being here. The RC Plane Builder on YouTube says, hey, Scott and Nick, I know that many Falcons fans are disappointed that we lost, but on the bright side, we face 4 teams that are below 500, and I feel we can take advantage and beat them. Rise up. Yeah, again, you're a game under 500 right now, and you've got the Carolina Panthers coming up, who just got
embarrassed,
waxed. Yeah, I mean, they just got hammered by the Bengals, and not just so did the Falcons couldn't stop the Bengals either, but it was a little different because it wasn't Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and guys you don't have. It was Joe Mixon. It was the running game. Falcons have a running game, and they can go into Carolina and run all over Carolina Panthers while they just activated Sam Darnold as part of their 2023 evaluation process. That's a nice way of saying they're tanking.
Yeah,
Nick.
They're a really bad team. They might finish. I'm just pulling up Tankathon right now for the NFL. They have a chance to finish the first overall pick, and maybe that's one that you'll be a little bit somewhat bummed that you gave to them if that happens, because that loss that you gave them win for you. But you got to win the games. But yeah, Carolina.
When you're at 500 after 10 games, which you could be sitting there at 5-5. You're not worried about the draft anymore. You're not worried about a top 5 pick anymore.
No, for sure. But Carolina's sitting there with the second overall pick right now behind the Houston Texans. So Vegas there at 3. Man, Broncos could be bad, but they're not Vegas. Pittsburgh at 4, Detroit at 5, Jacksonville 6, Arizona 7, Chicago 8, Green Bay 9, and New Orleans sending it to Philly 10. And man, I don't know how much football you got a chance to watch yesterday. I know it was competing against the Atlanta slot, but Justin Fields looks like he's arrived. Holy guacamole. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that game yet, but that dude is it's starting to click for him.
Yeah, I haven't. And hopefully the Bears will start sending him getting him some help. I did a Bears podcast early, like in the preseason, and I asked those questions. I'm like, I get on there and I'm curious, doing draft stuff. I want to grade and I want to say, hey, this was a hit or a miss, and I've said all along that I would have taken Justin Fields number 2 overall in that draft. And I want to know if that was right or not. And I'm not going to judge a quarterback in the NFL going to a bad team after one season, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
But I asked them and they were like, no, it was borderline criminal how they handled him as a rookie, and it cost the head coach his job. So second year, starting to do very well.
And relevant
he was available at 4. I was pretty vocal. I would have taken him at 4.
We both wanted him.
Yeah.
pretty relevant, though, for this show. Justin Fields breaking Michael Vick's all-time single-game quarterback rushing record, 178, breaking Vick's at 173. So good game for Fields, and a player that you and I will both be watching intriguingly. Very intrigued.
With interest, for sure.
Yeah, because of the draft implications.
Because, Kyle Pitts is really good and all. Drake London looks like really good and all, but is it the chicken or the egg? Well, if you've got Kyle Pitts, who the hell is he going to throw to? I mean, if you've got Justin Fields, who's he going to throw to? At the time, Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley were still under contract, and that didn't look quite as big of a show as as it turned out to be. Some hindsight grading there. I understood afterwards once the rumors started coming out that Julio Jones went out. I'm like, okay, well, Kyle Pitts makes a little bit more sense. This is a guy you could have for 15 years, for goodness sakes. But chicken or the egg. Well, who you got? Justin Fields. Well, who the hell is he going to throw to? Well, he's going to sit behind Matt Ryan for a year, and then he would be your quarterback this year. That's what you would have done for one. For two, like I said, the chicken or the egg. You take these two receivers. Who's throwing to them? So if you're going to struggle one way or the other when you're rebuilding this team, is it harder to get the quarterback or harder to get the pass catchers? I know which one I'm going to answer for that one. I think it's harder to get the right quarterback. And but again, that's all hindsight and stuff. And Kevin comes in and says, I'm extremely happy with his coaching staff, keeps his team in games. Me too. When we finally get some talent, bam. This team shouldn't be 500. It shouldn't. It is a credit to the members of the team and the coaching staff that they are, pulling guys off the scrap heap in order to do a job. I mean, you've got Cornell Armstrong out there playing corner, Isaiah Oliver coming off a knee injury, backups after backups that were not deemed NFL caliber players. I mean, like the Falcons backups aren't like the Bills backups. They're guys that people didn't want to begin with because that was all you could afford. Yeah. So, keeping them to 20, keeping Justin Herbert and the Chargers to 20. I don't care if they're missing a couple wide receivers. We're missing a couple of cornerbacks too, and your defensive line is still meh. So yes, keeping this team competitive is a monumental task, and I'm glad a lot of people are figuring that out, Nick.
Yeah, and I mean, we said that to start the season. You had them 3 wins, 4 wins. They're looking right now maybe like an 8-win, 9-win team, which is a credit. I mean, a real credit to them and what they're doing with specifically the run game. We got Roderick Koch coming in here with a cute doggo picture saying, Scott, seems like a lot of hysteria about it in fandom. We are so much better than anyone could have predicted. Please leave Mariota alone. He's more than acceptable, and I like him. I have to say, this is probably the first game where I watched it, and I was like, I wish I was getting much more from the drop back pass game because there is meat on the bone there, and it just feels somewhat disjointed. The pass game right now, it's not smooth operating at all. Now, some of that could be the lack of weapons, but you got one, I'll already call him a superstar, and Kyle Pitts getting 2 receptions for 13 yards or something. Fine. Okay. Other guys should be eating then. Drake Jackson has an okay game coming out.
Wrong Drake from the 2022 draft.
You're right. Drake London has an okay game, but 3 receptions on only 7 targets. Kyle Pitts, 2 receptions on 7 targets. The efficiency is not there from Mariota. So this, I got to say, this was the first game where I watched it, like I said, and I was like, wonder how that backup's feeling right now because Mariota not really getting it done for me, especially considering the Chargers defense has not been good.
Yeah, I don't know if you froze up on there, Nick. There you go. You just came back. Again, it's been borderline. I got a comment on YouTube. Shout out to an Oregon YouTube fan coming in and saying, it seems like the Falcons fans haven't embraced Mariota. He's been pretty good. He has been pretty good. Haven't embraced him the way he was embraced with Tennessee and even the Raiders. Why is that? And I was like, well, one, he's considered a bridge quarterback. He's here for, he was never considered the guy. How everybody, guys like me are out here saying this guy's here for 1 year. And he's here for 1 year. And so you're afraid to get too attached to him because he's out the door, which happens a lot anyway. But could he play himself into a longer term deal? Yeah, he could. And 2, he's got a talented rookie behind him. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how good the starter is playing. If you've got a talented young player behind you, there's always going to be talk for him. I think it was Chris Chandler had Michael Vick, back in the day. Chris Chandler was a really, really good quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, but there's Michael Vick. Yeah, but it's Mike Vick, the number 1 overall pick. Ridder's not quite that guy, being drafted 3rd. He's not a household name like Michael Vick was. So it's not quite apples to apples. But Mariota is not Chris Chandler either. Chris Chandler had a 14-2 season and took a team to the Super Bowl. So the distance between the starter and the backup is the distance between them is similar when it comes to Q rating here. Clayton Murray comes in. He says, "I knew he was going to struggle a little I knew we was going to struggle a bit. If the Atlanta Hawks win and Georgia Bulldogs win, it was too much winning in Georgia. But it was a chance to steal a win and stay on top. Started with coaching, then offense not converting, then defense not sealing on 3rd down." Yeah, the defense overall played well, but they had, when it came crunch time, and this is where we talk about that $80 million, Clayton, that $80 million of dead cap money, margins of victory in the NFL are slim, and depth is when it starts to matter. Your guys are tired in the 4th quarter because they had to play more in the 2nd and 3rd than if you had quality depth, so it's tough. I get it. So it pissed me off more than when Brady drove down the field with less than a minute on the clock. It's still, the pass rush still isn't there. It's better, so it feels like, hey, the Falcons are getting to the quarterback more. They are, but they got 12 sacks, which is still 30th, I think, in the NFL. And the Patriots had 9 sacks yesterday. They sacked Sam Ehlinger 9 times. 9 times yesterday. So the Falcons haven't had, and I think the Falcons had 4 or 5 sacks in the first half of the first game. So they're still not getting to the quarterback enough. There's still questions on the pass rush. We know the back end of the defense looks good. About the only place you feel decent about is the linebacker position. So there's still a lot of work to be done, Clayton. And the fact that they're able to be competitive while having all of these problems is, like I said, it's a testament to the coaching staff and the players that are out there giving it everything they've got.
100%. And we got Albert Knoppers coming in here while Scott takes a sip with the American flag picture there, reminding everyone to vote, I guess. Coming in saying, hello, y'all. Hello to you, Albert. Good to see you. Always good to hear from Albert. Mr. Smith also said he's mad, so mad that I wish Graham would have picked up that ball. Yeah, I don't think that you probably will never see him drop a football again in his career after that. That's going to keep him up at night. It's too bad because he made a good play. But sometimes 2 teams here cursed, the Chargers and the Falcons. Falcons, I guess, overdid it a little bit in this one as far as being cursed. So it's unfortunate, but you had them right where you wanted them. You let them get away. Hopefully that's something, guys get in that extra rep here this week or study a little bit harder in the film session because you're right there.
Yeah, it was. And, the Falcons have had a little bit of good fortune, too, with, teams that have come in. San Francisco was beat to hell. I don't think they faced either Bosa brother this weekend, this year, despite the fact that the 49ers and Chargers both came to Atlanta. So it's not quite like last year. Last year, 7-10 was smoke and mirrors against some really bad teams. But the Falcons, they're not a good team yet. They're in a bad division in what is the height of the mediocre of NFL. But again, you said 3 or 4 wins. I think I picked them to go 2-15. Honestly, I think I did because I'm like, what have you done at left guard? What have you done at right tackle? What have you done in the defensive line to get better? And that's where your bigger problems were. Well, Eli Wilkinson has been really good this year. He was out. Matt Hennessy came in. I don't know if you saw that, Nick. It was so weird. He got rolled up, went into the tent, and then said he's okay. And as he's coming back out, you see him in a break. He goes down like he was hit by a sniper, like just grabs his knee as he's running back out on the field and just hits the turf. It was a little scary. Yeah. But then Colby Gossett came in. He's played well at left guard. And McGarry still he's earning himself a lot of money. He might not have been as good as he's been the first couple of weeks, but he's still been pretty good. Make You Fumble. I think Make You Fumble says this really well. He says, I have a love-hate with Mariota, his ability to run and gain yards, but his throwing is terrible. I feel Ridder is the balance. Yeah, Mariota has that I can turn something from nothing ability. He did it on a nice read, nice dump off to the left side. I think it was to Algier. should have been sacked, wasn't. And those are the kind of things it's like, yes, that's what we were missing from Matt Ryan. That's what I want. Like, yeah, but again, a busted play is no basis for an offense. He's missing it's 3rd and 8 and I have to drop back and throw plays. That's what you need out of your quarterback. Ridder is probably a better passer. And I think he can be an equal in running. I mean, he's a 4.5 guy. Ridder can fly. His athleticism is underrated.
I feel like he's a little bit linear in his running style, but he can get north and south quick, but not his east and west.
Doesn't have the wiggle.
Yeah, in the phone booth kind of thing, which almost would rather have that. But still, being able to pick up.
Nick, I don't mind. The escapability isn't necessarily, you don't need the Mike Vick quickness. You need the awareness for that. You need the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady sidestep. That's not necessarily pure agility.
No.
But if a lane opens up, I want 20 yards and a slide. You know what I mean? I don't want him out there trying to dodge linebackers.
Yeah. I just feel like the quickness and the twitch are how you result in more bigger plays in the pass game.
Right. And the escapability, and I can duck and beat the edge once I escape containment. You need that a little bit. I get that for sure.
And maybe that's just after watching Patrick Mahomes last night with, not the fastest guy in the world, but he might be one of the quickest just movers, jolty within structure and then getting out of structure. But definitely frustrating. This is a game where, again, like I said, one of the first ones where I'm like, Mariota's not really getting it done in the pass game. Also, another thing, you mentioned it here in McGarry. We've definitely turned around our thoughts and opinions on McGarry this season. He's played a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
I've been, always saying, give him time, whatever, blah, blah, blah. This offense, I think, is doing a lot to protect him from true drop back pass sets. And I think at some point in his career, at some point, the Falcons get to a certain level of play or opponents, blah, 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 where you will see more pure drop back looks. What does McGarry look like then? That's my only trepidation with paying him, top 10, top 5 tackle money, because the true drop back isolated pass sets he's had this season have been extremely limited, which is a credit to the offensive style. But is that a long-term sustainable model? And is that something that translates year to year with McGarry going forward? I'd still pay him, but it's something that I've been at least thinking about when I'm framing my own thoughts with how to build this Falcons team going forward.
And on a less detailed highbrow, lowbrow look, you're taking the highbrow look on it. I'm going to take the lowbrow look on it. Why is it taking this long in a contract year? I'm hesitant to give somebody who has stunk for 3 years and is getting it together in a contract year. I'm hesitant to give them a longer term contract. That worries me too. Not only scheme and fit, again, all the reasons you mentioned, but the easy one for me is, he waited until this year for it to come together, and that happens. I get it. That happens sometimes. I'll tell you what though, man, he could walk right into the WWE. Good Lord. He's put the time in the weight room. He's got, a lot of the offensive linemen, they don't have, they got higher body fat. They don't have the definition in their arms and their shoulders and stuff. Man, he's ripped. He's put some time in. He's got you can tell the difference between the deltoids and the biceps instead of just one big slab of mass going down his arm. And that he's not the prettiest dude in the world. He's got that long hair. I'm like, man, he's 6'7", 300 pounds, looking like that. He walks right into the WWE. And as Kevin says, Nick nailed it with McGarry. Yeah, thank you very much. That's why we love having him here. It's why we love having you here as well. Michael Ranquillo coming in. Thank you for being here. Says, good morning, Scott and Nick on Forging the Falcons. Good morning. Good morning. Albert, I'm going to let you take this one first. Albert asked, if the Falcons played the Broncos next Sunday, who would win? Neutral field.
Neutral field, I think. Neutral field, Falcons by 1. I think that the biggest thing right now is the Broncos are below average, slightly below average at stopping the run. And the Falcons are doing a really good job stressing the edges specifically with their run game and with Cordell Patterson in there. That's where the Broncos are the weakest on defense. I don't think the Broncos offense does enough to get it done. So I think the Falcons by 1, just because the run game matchup, I think, is ideal for the Falcons. That's the biggest strength against the biggest weakness there.
I would take the Falcons in this game for the same reason I took the Jets against the Broncos. When the Jets played the Broncos, I said, here's two very similar teams, but the Jets are playing with belief. They're playing with an identity. What is the Broncos' identity on offense? There isn't one. The Falcons and Jets both have a similar identity on offense. It's like, we're going to run the ball and protect our quarterback. The Jets have a much better defense, but the Falcons are better on offense. I mean, flat out, they're better on offense than the Jets. So I would take them just because I think, maybe it could be year 2 of a project. Arthur Smith has been there for his second year and has a team rowing all in the same direction, but identity and I think that for the exact same reason I took the Jets, I would take the Falcons in that one. Joe Cannon coming back in. Appreciate you. He says, I appreciate the fact that we drafted Tyler Algier with Ridder slated to come in as the next starter. Having Algier and CP behind him will be great for Ridder's transition. It's interesting because is he slated to be the next starter? I do like CP is one of the few guys that is around that is on a multi-year deal. He should be back next season if he's healthy. He got several years. It ended up being 3 years with some guaranteed, but it's really a contract that keeps him in the Falcons for at least this season and next season. Algier looks good. Hell, Huntley looks good. Ridder is Ridder the starting quarterback next season? Don't know. I don't know. What do you? I mean, it depends. There's so many variables, Nick. Do you package together 3 first-rounders and send them to Baltimore?
Depends what the market looks like. If Lamar Jackson becomes available, then I think you at least have to make that call and see what you can do, because him in this offensive scheme would be every Madden player's dream. It would be pretty darn incredible to watch. But, maybe there's a quarterback in this draft that you like. I know that Bryce Young has been having a good season. I don't think CJ Stroud's a good fit for what you guys want to do, but there's some athletes in there as well. I think Will Levis is a pretty darn good athlete as well. And then, of course, Anthony Richardson at Florida is more athlete than quarterback right now, but I mean, he's an amazing athlete.
I'd like to see him stay at Florida one more year.
I agree.
And the other part of this is I think Arthur Smith would change is like, we say what you want to do, or is that kind of what we're tailoring the offense towards Mariota? And would you change it if you had more confidence in your throwing ability? Because it obviously, Matt Ryan had, and very different from Mariota. And, Matt Ryan played under Arthur Smith last year. But, they also went out and handpicked Marcus Mariota for, they gave him good money. They could have had some other guys for $12 million, $14 million.
Yeah. No, it's just the style of offense that it is right now. You could easily close your eyes and see a couple of those guys fitting in there. So we got Make You Fumble coming in saying, hopefully we add a corner with our draft picks. Armstrong is killing us. That's probably the most likely position for the first round so far this season for you guys. Maybe you could see an offensive lineman, maybe wide receiver, another pass rusher too. But right now, cornerback right now you need to take multiple. You need to pay one and draft one. So definitely a position that the Falcons will be targeting.
Yeah, Make You Fumble. We've talked about this in the past. It wasn't just a corner. It was 2 corners. Yeah. So you're coming out of the offseason because Casey Hayward's not a long-term solution. He's on the older side on a 1-year deal. So it will be AJ Terrell, and then it will be 2 more guys via free agency. And I believe Isaiah Oliver signed a 1-year deal as well. I'd like to bring him back. So you're looking at corner, Terrell and Oliver, Darren Hall. Where do those guys fit in? But you're looking at, that's where you're going to spend some resources: corner, edge, wide receiver. And then, and then the old best player available if it happens to fall. The thing is the best player available is so subjective once you get past like the top 5 that you end up trying to, I say, hit a guy that fits a need. Don't reach. But, if you're close on our board, I'm looking at it, it says corner, tight end, offensive guard. Those are my 3 highest rated players on my board. I'm taking the corner. Even if he's the third of those 3. So you try and match your best available player with a need. And a corner is going to come in and start right away. Yeah. He is. But you can go defensive back. You need another safety, need another edge. I already talked about the pass rush. It's not there yet. It's just not there yet. Lucker coming in. Lucker, I'm sorry. He says, good morning, gentlemen. And this will be the last one before we get out of here and we head over and do a little Broncos for breakfast this morning. He says, just wondering, why do you think there's such a bad connection between Kyle and Marcus? I don't know. There's a great connection between Marcus and anybody right now, Lucker. He's He's just not a real high level passer. What did we see last night with Patrick Mahomes? 60 passes. Saw Matt Ryan throw for 55 or 58 earlier this year. We saw Justin Herbert throw for 43 yesterday. That's just, what is Mariota's season high in completions? 15, 16? It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, he's not really an anticipatory drop back passer. It looks a little bit clunky with him out there now, playing pivot off of the run game and getting the ball out quickly to obvious open first reads where guys are open because of the design of the play. He can do that. He can play that point pretty well. But the drop back, reading the coverage, throwing to a single spot for a guy, trusting his player that's going to be in that spot, just don't really see it with Mariota right now. And specifically with Kyle, he can separate vertically, but given his wingspan and his body type and whatnot, he's going to have guys around him. You're going to have to trust that guy to go make a play. Now, there were a few times there was a play yesterday where a slightly better throw and Kyle gets it, or one where Kyle's running a little bit further there. Looked like he slowed down a tad. I haven't watched the all 22 yet. But there's some close ones there. But I think it's a matter of time before Kyle Pitts gets unlocked here. You are building the infrastructure for whoever the next quarterback is. Now, is that going to be Ridder? Is that going to be somebody else? Time's going to tell, but trust I think as cliche as it sounds, trust the process. This is still a rebuilding roster, rebuilding offense. You're looking for and building an identity. What you're doing right now with these young guys, it's not meant for Mariota. So if the connection's not there right now, I wouldn't sweat too much because it's about who's next.
Kyle's 22 years old. I think Drake might be 21 or 22. And you've got an owner that will make sure that these guys stay Falcons. You're not just burning through. You got an owner that will pony up and pay these guys top dollar. They would just have to flat out want to leave for you not to be able to re-sign them. That was what worried me, Nick, is like, all right, you're going to be 3 years into Kyle Pitts' contract before you can use it and do anything with him between, the rest of the team and you get settled at quarterback. That was my concern with taking a pass catcher. Okay, he'll be 23 years old. So be it. You'll be okay. And meanwhile, you're playing some good football and you've got a chance, as improbable as it may sound, at the playoffs this year. They're still tied for first. And again, the rest of that schedule, it doesn't look so bad. At Panthers, Bears, Commanders, Steelers, Saints, Ravens, Cardinals, Buccaneers. I'm not sure that there's a team more than one game over 500 on the rest of the schedule. So on that note, Nick, we're going to get out of here. We will be back on Wednesday for a preview, and we will be back on Friday morning for a gut reaction show on after the Thursday night Falcons-Panthers game. So they play early, so we will be here on Friday. So a little programming note, we will be here Wednesday and Friday this week. So until then, we will see you next time.